What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome into the Thomas Mott Show here on a Thursday as the Eagles vs. Jaguar game is quickly approaching. We're going to jump into some injury news later on, but I wanted to focus in on Trey Sermon, Nakobe Dean. If you are an Eagles fan, if you are on Twitter, if you're on the blog websites and on Reddit, and you talk to your friends at the water cooler, surely this conversation has come up. Where's Trey Sermon? Philadelphia signed this running back who's supposed to be really good coming out of college, and yet they haven't even used him, and instead are trying to, fit Boston Scott in there, and they're trying to go ahead and give touches to Kenny Gainwell. Like, where is Trey Sermon? Likewise, you probably heard them say, wait, didn't we draft Nakobe Dean, the best linebacker in the NFL, draft in the third round? Has he played at all? No, I haven't seen him. I have gotten so many DMs in my Twitter account, @RealThomasMod, about these two players. We're going to break down why Philadelphia has not used them yet, and if they can, going forward here in the future. Really quickly, appreciate you guys. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. YouTube loves it when channels get thumbs up. This show needs as many thumbs ups as possible. Also, subscribe. We would appreciate that. If you're going to Eagles Jaguars like I am on Sunday, I'll be in section M12, M13, kind of up in the end zone. Come say hi. Let me know if you guys are going down below in the comments section. Okay, so let's start with Trey Sermon, because Sermon is kind of the main focus right now from Eagle fans, wondering why Philadelphia has not gone ahead and used this running back, and it's an interesting situation. So there have been a lot of discussions over the offseason about adding another running back. There was discussions about trading for Josh Jacobs. That's, very well reported in the media. People were talking about maybe drafting somebody this year because the idea that Miles Sanders is not going to be a long-term solution at running back was floated out there. Now, I like Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, as pointed out by a commenter yesterday, he's on pace for a 1,000-yard year, his first since becoming an Eagle. He's in a contract season. I think Miles Sanders is very clearly running back one, but a lot of Eagle fans are looking for that RB2, looking for that 1-2 punch that the modern NFL basically demands, and Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott really haven't been it. Now, enter Trey Sermon. And again, they signed Trey Sermon or as a free agent because he was let go by the 49ers, and the questions have now arisen, why aren't they using him? And I don't want to overcomplicate this. I think it's very, very simple. Sermon is not the player that he was expected to be coming out of Ohio State. You go back to his days at Oklahoma. I remember when I was at Baylor on the Baylor radio program, I called a Baylor versus Oklahoma game. And Trey Sermon was one of the running backs next to Kennedy Brooks, who had like a 98-yard rushing touchdown. This guy was legit at Oklahoma, and then he goes to Ohio State. He was legit there, and many people thought he was going to go ahead and be a top running back in the National Football League. The 49ers drafted him in the third round, and you went, wow, Kyle Shanahan offense, that's got to be a successful place for a running back, and he never really panned out. And you can kind of go through his overall career numbers and say, wow, this has not been anything special from Trey Sermon. And you just go back to the 2021 log. Yes, he was injured. Yes, he did deal with a couple of missed games with injury, but the numbers are a little bit surprising. I mean, look at this. You go back to the 21st of November, 10 carries, 32 yards. That's a 3.2 yards per rush average, yards per carry average, I should say. Not that good. Then you go to the Seattle game. Sure, 19 for 89, but it's still under 5 yards per carry, 4.7. Then you go for 10 for 31, that's 3.1. And then, of course, his lone carry in Philadelphia his first carry, I should say, came against Philadelphia on the 19th of September last year, 1 for 8. And so these numbers, to me, tell a story that Trey Sermon is just not the running back that he was expected to be, whether that was from injury, whether the transition from college to the National Football League was just a little bit too much for him. If he could not be successful in the 49ers system, then maybe he's not going to be successful in the NFL system. But Thomas, you say, he has the talent. Why can't he make that transition? Why hasn't Philadelphia at least given him a shot? Clearly, they are seeing something in practice that is not impressing them. Because right now, as you go through the Eagles running back depth chart, if he was at a spot where he could make a legitimate contribution on this offense, you think Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen would use him? I think they would. I like Boston Scott. I like Kenny Gainwell. But let's be real. Kenny Gainwell here in year 2 has not been the Kenny Gainwell we thought that he would be. He was impressive his rookie year. You remember Kenny Gainwell in his rookie season? He had a lot of catches out of the backfield. He was getting rushes in the red zone. He, of course, had 4, 5, 6 rushing touchdowns. He was very, very impressive. And all of us basically assumed he was going to be RB2. They've hardly used him. I mean, Kenny Gainwell has not been a factor so far for Philadelphia through the first 3 weeks of the season. And so you're telling me that they are just not using Trey Sermon, even though he's supposedly better than Kenny Gainwell? I am not buying it. And so I think it comes down to simply the idea that Sermon is not the NFL running back that he was supposed to be. And that right now, Philadelphia has a lot more trust in 45 carries with Boston Scott a game, 45 carries with Kenny Gainwell a game, and then just running Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders. And so, I am like you. I would like to see Trey Sermon get more touches, get more opportunities. He's getting those opportunities in practice. He had all those opportunities whenever they signed him a couple of weeks ago. Like, it's not like they aren't letting him run the football. They're not doing it in games, but they are doing it in practices. And I think that right now, he's just not been impressive enough to beat out Boston Scott, who by now is an established, very reliable veteran on the Philadelphia Eagles rushing attack, and young Kenny Gainwell, who they're holding out hope can eventually become maybe not a feature back, but at least a very solid number 2 kind of Swiss Army knife option in that Philadelphia Eagles backfield. So I want to see more Trey Sermon. I'm with you on that, but I just don't think that Philadelphia's been impressed with him. And I think that the hype from college is what Eagle fans are kind of constantly, hung on or stuck on right now. And his actual NFL game is not up to standard at this moment. And I think we can mention Nakobe Dean in this same discussion. I think we have to at least acknowledge the fact that Dean has been absolutely nowhere so far in this Eagles linebacking core, and this is a very similar situation to Trey Sermon. I'm a big Nakobe Dean fan. I have been all aboard the Nakobe Dean train. Drafting him in the 3rd round was an absolute steal, but there's a reason he fell. And there was that whole discussion about, is he injured, is he not? He clearly is not injured. I mean, very clearly is not injured. He played a lot in the preseason. I think the speed is a little bit much for him right now. The transition from the NFL game has been bigger than you would have liked. Plus, TJ Edwards and Kazir White are balling out. Why would you not play TJ Edwards right now? Like, seriously, why would you not play TJ Edwards? The guy had like 18 tackles last week and a sack and balled out of his mind. He is your middle linebacker to fill holes and stop the run. And then you have Kazir White, who is also a quicker outside linebacker who's going to go ahead and cover tight ends and be a lot better in zone coverages, which Philadelphia does a lot of. I like Dean. But I think this idea that you got to play Nakobe Dean instantly right now, or you have to wonder where Nakobe Dean is absolutely ridiculous. He's clearly not ready to be a starting linebacker in the National Football League. And you can argue, sure, rotate him in there, but why would you rotate a lesser linebacker right now? I'm not saying he's going to be in the future, but a lesser linebacker right now for Kazir White or TJ Edwards, who are playing at a really high level, maybe the highest we've seen from a tandem of Eagle linebackers in the past decade, in the past 20 years. I mean, since the 2003 Super Bowl team. I mean, come on. These guys are playing great. I like Nakobe Dean. I think he's more of a project, though, and I think you can compare him to Sermon in the fact that the hype in college was real. A transition to the NFL, for whatever reason, whether they, learning the playbook or whether they're a little undersized, in Nakobe Dean's case, or whether they just can't figure things out just yet, whatever it is, they are not ready, but could be in the future. And I think that's what Dean has going for him, is that in the future, he should go ahead and be a starting linebacker at the next level, at the NFL level. But the idea that we have to complain as Eagle fans, or, go on Twitter and say, where are these guys? And talk about it on local sports radio, where are these players? They're not on there because they're not as good as the guys that are playing in front of them. And in the NFL, you want the best guys on the football field. It's just that simple. Okay, we're going to do the national story here in just a couple of minutes. First, though, I do want to mention a couple of quick things via Bleeding Green Nation. Just some, cleanup news regarding what's going on with Philadelphia today on the Thomas Mott Show. How about this? Jalen Hurts, FedEx Air Player of the Week for Week 3, and he, I think, has been the NFC Player of the Month right now at the starting quarterback spot for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, the big thing for Hurts, and we talk about Jalen Hurts all the time here on the Thomas Mott Show, completion percentage. He's at a 74% right now. He is playing in terms of accuracy at a super high level, and he has the most in terms of average yards per attempt at 10.4, 10.8 out of any quarterback in the league. The two big knocks on Jalen Hurts were accuracy and throwing it downfield. And what has he done? He's dramatically improved his accuracy. I mean, you're up almost 10% from where it was last year. And he's the number one deep ball thrower in the National Football League right now in terms of yards per attempt and actual completions over 20 yards. The impressive season of Jalen Hurts cannot be underlooked, and it's always fun to see national recognition, whether he's the FedEx Air Player of the Week or, in this case, the NFC Player of the Month, which is really, really impressive for the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. Okay, some injury news and notes for the Jaguars game coming up on Sunday. Again, I'll be at that game. If you guys are going to be at the Jaguars game, let me know. Would love to go ahead and hang out. Fly to Philly early Saturday, and then, of course, we'll get to the game early on Sunday morning. However, there are a couple of injuries just to note. We'll talk more about this in a preview coming up in tomorrow's video, but it is worth noting there are a couple of Eagles who did miss practice, but nothing seems to be very serious. And so, did not practice A.J. Brown, Landon Dickerson, Boston Scott, and Darius Slay. A.J. Brown had a personal matter. Dickerson still dealing with that foot, and he was in and out of the lineup on Sunday in that win against Washington. It doesn't seem to be serious. It's just nagging. It just seems to be continuing to pop up. And I'm at the point where if he needs to rest for a couple of weeks and you need to go ahead and play Sua Opeta or somebody else at the guard spot, I'm fine with that. I think any of the backup interior offensive linemen are solid on Philadelphia. They've done a great job of making this a very deep offensive line. I'd rather have Landon for December and January, maybe February, instead of, in and out of a lineup right now in week 4 against the Jaguars. That's a personal opinion. Scott has a rib. That's minor. He should be fine. This Darius Slay injury, I mentioned this like 2 weeks ago, that I was like, is Darius Slay injured or not? And people went right down on the show and commented saying, Thomas, don't be ridiculous. He's fine. He said it was cramps. We talked about that. He clearly has something going on, clearly. And right now they say a back. Now, we don't know the extent. This could be another kind of minor nagging sort of thing. But Darius Slay is something to go ahead and definitely keep an eye on here, as he is just dealing with something that is bugging him. It's not costing him a lot of snaps, but it's bugging him. And obviously, you're going to want Slay out there, especially later on in the year, because you remember the NFL season, unlike college football, is a marathon, not a sprint, because you got to do 17 straight weeks with just one, bye week coming up here in week 7. It takes a long time for these players, or it's a long time for these players to be, playing football and getting hit, and so you want Slay to be there in the long run. Some minor injury stuff here. A lot of the older guys getting rest. Cox, Graham, Lane Johnson, Kelsey. That always happens on Wednesdays for most NFL teams. Sanders, this hip issue, not going to hold him out. It's just kind of a limited thing. Again, guys get banged up early on in the year. Same thing goes where Devontae Smith in the back, Josh Sweat with the rest, and then Milton Williams with the knee. They should be just fine. Not a lot of overall issues with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cole Van Lanen has a hamstring. He did not participate. We'll keep an eye on that one, although he is a backup guard. And then, of course, Shaq Griffin, the cornerback. He was limited with a hip, but he should be good to go to cover maybe A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. Okay, final news and notes here from the Thomas Mott Show as we get into the NFL national story of the day. I thought about talking about Bengals and Dolphins, and I can mention that here very, very briefly. I think that this could be a trap game for the Dolphins. I think that Joe Burrow and the Bengals have really picked things up. It was a very impressive win, albeit against the Jets. But, you kind of saw that Bengal offense from last year come alive. Tua's going to be a game-time decision. I bet he plays with the back or head, whatever it was. But I think that Bills game was emotionally exhausting. That was a very serious game in Miami, and I could see a short week, a little bit of an upset here. Dolphins not going to sell the farm on them, but losing a football game on Thursday night could be a very real possibility. We go, though, to the NFL.com quarterback index for week 4. Now, this is not a quarterback ranking overall, but it's where this writer, which is Mark Seltzer, ranks the quarterbacks going into week 4. And again, it's a national story. We tie it back into Philadelphia. It's fun to see where they put Jalen Hurts, and I think you're going to like where they have him. So, number 1, Josh Allen, rightfully so. I think most people would consider Josh Allen the best quarterback in the league right now. Now, again, you have Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, like they're all kind of right up there, 1A, 1B, 1C, but most people would say Allen is number 1. Look who's number 2. Boom, right there. There's your guy, Jalen Hurts. And I love what he says, the rapid rise of Hurts. He's 2 years removed from running the scout team. It's my favorite development of the young NFL campaign. With Jalen at the motherboard against the Commanders on Sunday, Philly scattered Washington's defense for 24 points and 322 total yards by halftime. His exploits on the ground are noted, but Hurts ascended this list thanks to a pair of on-field lashings with his arm. I love the nature of this missile to Devontae Smith. Hurts showed complete trust in his receiver, nestled between defenders, and total confidence in his ability to deliver, with A.J. Brown creating equal chaos downfield. I'll ask the same question my colleague Baldy asked. Is Jalen suddenly the best deep passer in the NFL? We just talked about that. He has competition, but his height and play has the Eagles rolling as Super Bowl material on both sides of the ball. Love that. You love that. I told you guys he was going to be this way. Lamar is your overall, I think, stats leader from a quarterback spot. Fine with him at number 3. Patty had a bad game against the Colts. He's going to be fine. Herbert, the ribs are an issue. The Chargers injury stuff. Rashawn Slater goes down. They have all sorts of... Joey Bosa is going to be out for an extended period of time. They're a mess health-wise, but Herbert's still great. Love seeing Tua up there. He's the AFC version of Jalen Hurts. He's the left-handed AFC version of Jalen Hurts. Rodgers at 7, Stafford at 8, Brady at 9, and Kyler Murray there at 10, although I think Kyler's going to start to come down a little bit. I am not sold on the Cardinals as a whole. Funny seeing Ryan Tannehill up there at 12 as well. It's just funny how they rank things going into week 4. There you go. National stories are always interesting in terms of what is important. I always have to try to tie it in with Philadelphia, and I think it's fun to watch power rankings from the team perspective and where they put Philadelphia, and quarterback rankings. Remember, start of the year, I think we looked at a quarterback index here on the Thomas Mott Show, and Jalen Hurts was 13, 12. He's risen into the top 5 already, and it's due to the fact that he's playing at an unbelievable level. Now, tomorrow's show, I'll give you guys a little preview for that one. Trap game. For last week, it was the Commanders is a trap game. This week, it's the Jaguars are a trap game. is it really a trap game, or are people just trying to guess when Philadelphia is going to lose their first game? Because they will, and they will lose to, a couple of teams this year. It's going to happen. But are the Jaguars and Doug Peterson truly a trap game for Philadelphia? We'll talk about that in the Thomas Mott Show coming up tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. That's it, though. Make sure you guys hit that sub button, thumbs up as always, and we'll see you guys as we get ready for Week 4 of the National Football League here on the Thomas Mott Show.